Another weapon for Teddy Bridgewater. Robby Anderson, deep threat of the New York Jets, has signed a $12 million deal with the Carolina Panthers. So Robby Anderson, he lands in Carolina with his old college coach, Matt Rhule. So there was a connection there, and Robby Anderson made it happen, went to Carolina. Matt Rhule made it happen. And they add a big dimension of speed, deep threat capability, and just playmaking to this wide receiver group. I feel like last season, Carolina, their two receivers in Curtis Samuel and also in DJ Moore made major strides forward as a number one, number two combination, as one of the sneaky combinations in the NFL who, yeah, the Panthers weren't really good last season, but they were successful offensively for a large portion of that season, even without Cam Newton. And really, even with Kyle Allen or Will Grier, they did have little bits of success, and you could see the potential from their wide receiver group last season. Now you add Robby Anderson into the depth chart on the field, and I could see this offense really exploding in certain games with the big play capability that they have. Of course, with Christian McCaffrey, who you could argue is the best in the league at his position, especially in the receiving game. And then you give Robby Anderson, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel. I think what this also adds to the offense is an ability to be flexible with Moore and Samuel. I think with Robby Anderson, he will be the primary vertical threat in the offense because that's what he does best. And I would say that he is better in that regard to either receiver they have on their roster right now, including DJ Moore. I feel like DJ Moore, this would allow him a little bit more to become that really good slot or like playmaking receiver underneath. I think the strength of DJ Moore's game is his ability to catch the football and make something happen after the catch. And with him now not really having to do as many of the vertical assignments within the offense and stretching the field, that will be Robby Anderson's task. I think that enables them to move around Samuel and Moore into better matchups and really better spots on the field to run some of the shorter concepts and shorter routes and get open for Teddy Bridgewater. Obviously, their offense is going to be a lot different this year because they have a different offensive coordinator, a different head coach, a different philosophy. But I do think this was really the intention in this signing, was allowing them to do what Teddy does best, but add that weapon that scares a defense vertically so that we can open it up underneath for Bridgewater to have success with his quick release, his good decision making, and getting the ball in our playmakers' hands, whether that's Samuel, Moore, or McCaffrey. This has more to do with the rest of the offense than it has to do for the Bridgewater to Anderson connection. Although I think that will be interesting to see how it develops. But I've never really seen Teddy Bridgewater as a guy that's been a vertical, stretch the field, like throw it down the field and make a big play sort of quarterback. He doesn't really have a super strong arm. I'm not saying it's a bad arm or a weak arm. It's an average arm, but he's accurate. He's more in precision. He's more in underneath. He's more in getting the ball as a point guard type of quarterback than as a guy that's just going to be the shooting guard, going to be the shooter. You know, there's some quarterbacks that are shooters. There's some that are point guards, if you do a basketball analogy. And I feel like Bridgewater is more of a guy that's just trying to get the ball out quick and operate an offense, as opposed to a quarterback who's trying to make that big play or create that big play on his own. And like, I've never really seen him connect with a downfield receiver before, but I do think Anderson will have his games here and there, his big plays here and there, and he's enough for a defense to be like, oh, in the back of their mind, to pay attention to him going down the field. You can't really leave him one-on-one unless you have an elite corner on the outside. You have to worry about his speed down the field. You have to worry about him burning you for a big play. So I think this is an awesome signing because Carolina hasn't really had a true number three, a true vertical threat in a long time, or a good three receiver set, right? They've been dealing and trying to find guys to be that number three, but they really haven't been able to find that number three. And it's almost interesting that Carolina now finally has the best receiver group that they've ever had, and Cam Newton just left. Like, this is the best receiver group they've had, I would say, since like the Steve Smith, Musin Muhammad days of like the mid 2000s to early 2000s when they won the Super Bowl with Jake Delhomme. Like, this is the best they've ever had at receiver. So it's awesome to see in Carolina, and obviously the NFC South is going to be loaded with weapons, loaded with offensive weapons, and loaded with offenses in general. And Carolina is going to need to keep up with these teams on the scoreboard. So this is a way of doing it, bringing in another weapon at wide receiver. I'd still like to see them add a tight end going forward. They still have Thomas there, but I don't quite know if Thomas is the answer to replace the big shoes of Greg Olsen going forward. The offensive line could still use some work, and we'll see what they do in the draft. But this is a team to me in Carolina that's probably not going to be competing for the NFC South crown, but a team that's looking to better themselves into the future and be a team that can maybe be good once Drew Brees and Tom Brady retire, and then all of a sudden Carolina's suited to be that team to take over the division and really make a run into the playoffs and have some success post Brady and Brees in the NFC South. But I like the move for Robby Anderson. He's a good receiver. He's had good seasons. He's had good success. But like I said early in this offseason, I feel like Robby Anderson was always going to be better off going elsewhere. The interesting thing is that he chose a team that has a quarterback that's not really a vertical type of guy, but I do think that he will be better utilized in this offense than with the Jets. Now, he might not be the true number one the way he was with the Jets, but I do think that his skills will be better utilized with smarter offensive systems and coaches there in Carolina than what he had with the Jets. And I also feel like, yes, some people say he had a decent connection with Sam Darnold, but I never really saw it on a consistent basis, and I never saw Darnold as the type of guy that would give Anderson the opportunities for him to make those big plays. And I'm hoping that Teddy Bridgewater can be that type of guy, can be that type of receiver. Taking a look at just some of his statistics, he's 6'3", he's 190, so he adds some height to the receiver group, and he adds, obviously, speed. He came out of college with a little bit of some personal issues, which kept him from really being a higher draft pick, and came into the NFL, had some success pretty much immediately in 2016, with 587 yards on 42 catches, 2 touchdowns. He broke out in 2017 with 941 yards and 7 touchdowns on 63 catches. And then the last 2 years with Darnold, he's caught somewhere around 750 yards for about 5 or 6 touchdowns in each season. He's played 16 games in every season but 2018. So he's been statistically pretty consistent, somewhere within the 700 to 900 range. He's probably not going to give you 1,000 yards or anything like that. But like I said, he's a big yards per reception type of guy where he's caught at least 14 yards per reception every year and 15 the last 2 seasons in a row. So Robby Anderson to the Carolina Panthers adds a deep threat and speed dimension to this offensive attack with the Panthers and Bridgewater.